Welcome to The Link Online and live on Facebook on Fridays. Yes, we're here on Facebook starting at around 16:20 hours GMT or UT, whichever you prefer. And here in studio we have Lynn Desjardins.
Hello there.
Terry Haig.
Hi, Carm.
And myself, Carmel Kilkenny, sitting in for Mark Montgomery, who's on assignment this week, and of course the lovely Marie-Claude Simard, our web mistress, joining us in sight and sound each week. And of course it's Chantal Saint-Sauveur, who you can't see behind the glass there. She's our technician today. Coming up hour, Lynn?
I'll tell you about a beautiful part of Canada devastated by logging, but which a judge ordered restored by conservationists and Indigenous people working together.
And I'm going to go down memory lane to a race that riveted the world. I'll tell you about Roger Bannister and John Landy in the Miracle Mile, the mile of the century in the 20th century in Vancouver.
I'm looking forward to hearing it. We hear a lot, of course, about teenagers and their technological consumption, but now the spotlight is in what they're drinking. We'll hear why some of these new concoctions can prove fatal. And we've got those stories and your comments coming up on this edition of The Link Online. Well, forestry is the cornerstone of the economy of British Columbia. The West Coast province has to balance extensive logging with environmental protection. But a recent court case was unusual in the way the judge settled an issue related to this. Lynn, what happened?
Well, the case involved the spectacular archipelago off Canada's Pacific coast called Haida Gwaii, formerly known as the Queen Charlotte Islands. Now, it's covered with old-growth forest, and it's a very rich ecosystem, one that I actually would love to go to. In one particular area called the Cumdis Slough, there was serious damage caused to a salmon stream, and that was because of poor logging practices. Now, Canada has a law protecting fish and their habitat, and the companies involved, there were 3 of them, were brought to court. The judge found them guilty, but imposed an unusual and creative sentence in hopes of restoring and protecting the land. For details, I spoke with Tanya Wachby of the Nature Conservancy of Canada, one of the groups involved. And the conservation group now has joint responsibility for the area.
The area is quite beautiful. There's lots of Sitka spruce, there's western red cedar, and if you're lucky, you might hear the squawking of the prehistoric sandhill cranes. I mean, the land obviously has currently been changed, and the destructive logging that occurred has left some old growth, but if you're walking through the land now, you'll experience a dense forest of mainly alder and some western red cedar and Sitka spruce, and you'll come across several streams, channels, and numerous large stumps and some log piles. But once you've managed to push through the thick vegetation and logging debris, you'll make it out to the open mudflat on the Cumdis estuary. They started logging in 2010. Unfortunately, the land experienced a different type of logging in that the alteration to fish habitat occurred, and following that, there was someone who stepped in and observed the logging that was taking place. And at that point, it was taken to, around 2016 when the hearings began, and a judgment was in January of 2017. So the activities were the result of impacts to the stream that were identified as part of the Federal Fisheries Act, and that's where the counts against the landowners came.
So this was a court case?
It was, yeah. The original... So, I mean, it was through creative sentencing that the Nature Conservancy of Canada really became part of this. The logged lands were transferred by way of a court-mandated penalty under the Federal Fisheries Act. They were transferred to the Nature Conservancy of Canada and the Haida Nation as co-owners to restore and steward the land.
So this was an unusual decision for a judge to make.
Absolutely. I mean, the original court order provided for a land transfer in lieu of the fine. So this is creative sentencing. And as long as the land went to a non-governmental land conservation organization is how it was originally framed. But given the importance of the land to the Haida Nation and the interest of the Nature Conservancy of Canada working with Haida Nation, the provincial court judge amended that court order to allow transfer to both the Nature Conservancy of Canada and Haida Nation as joint owners.
So what will happen?
Well, there's lots of work ahead. In partnership with the Haida Nation and with the support of the Department of Fisheries and Oceans, we will be fundraising for the remaining stream restoration work. We are confident we will be successful in raising the funds required, and some of the stream restoration work was completed by the former landowners under the Fisheries and Oceans guidance. So together we'll be developing a baseline inventory and stewardship management plan, and we'll be implementing stream and upland restoration activities, including monitoring and assessment.
So just in layman's term, what does that mean? How do you plan to restore the land?
Well, looking at the streams that have been impacted, we'll be doing some riparian planting to stabilize the banks and to maintain temperature that's comfortable to salmon. So we want to see salmon returning to those channels. They are very productive salmon streams, and while there have been some returning to those stream channels, there's obviously a long way to go to get to the point where the streams are stable and provide the right habitat for those species. This is an incredibly rich area. Haida Gwaii itself is full of incredible biodiversity and species. So we have several species at risk that were confirmed. They were within a 3-kilometer radius of the land, so until we've done our work on the ground, we don't have confirmed species there. But within a 3-kilometer radius, there are species such as the Haida Gwaii ermine and the old-growth specklebelly lichen. And there are several others. I mean, there are quite a few of ecosystem elements that we're excited about in the lands, and there's sandhill crane habitat, marbled murrelets, and of course the beautiful old-growth Sitka spruce and western red cedar.
And that was Tanya Wachby, Director of the Nature Conservancy of Canada's West Coast Program. And of course, this conservancy really is responsible for acquiring and managing all kinds of sensitive areas right across Canada. And what they do is they get them up and running so that people eventually can visit them. But that in the will take a couple of years.
So it'll be there for you, Lynn.
Yes, hopefully.
Well, following the tragic news last week that 14-year-old Athena Gervais, who was first reported missing and then found the following day in a creek behind her school in a suburb of Montreal, where she died, an alcoholic beverage has been pulled off the shelves in Quebec, called FCKD Up. F'd up. In brightly colored letters, the canned drink was marketed to the young, and the ingredients made it an easy alcohol for teenagers to drink. Athena Gervais had been drinking with some friends on a school break, apparently, got left behind, and the beverage is thought to have contributed to her death. A toxicology report will soon be available. Hubert Sassi is the Director General of Éduc Alcool. It's the non-profit group that works to educate Quebecers about the power of alcohol. Moderation is always in good taste is their motto, but of course, this is kind of lost on the young. Sassi has been warning about the dangers of these kinds of alcoholic concoctions for several months now. When I spoke to him earlier this week, he explained why.
There is a new trend in North America, be it in the United States with a product called Four Loko, or here with the one called FCKD Up, that combine alcohol and stimulants like energy drinks and sugar. So they have created a malt-based alcoholic drink with 11.9% alcohol per volume, which is the equivalent of wine, in fact. And it is the taste and the effect of alcohol is covered here by guarana, which is a stimulant, and a huge quantity of sugar, which is the equivalent of 660 calories of sugar, or 13 spoons.
My goodness.
So the added product cover the taste of alcohol, because as you know, young people don't like the taste of alcohol. When you cover this taste with a lot of sugar, then they like it. And the effect of alcohol, because when someone drinks a little bit too much, our body sends us signals. We speak slower, we move, our motricity is changed, our vision is different, and therefore we stop drinking because our body is telling us, hey, you've got enough. While the stimulants and the sugar inside those drinks covers the effect and the signals that your body is sending you, and therefore you drink too much before you even are aware of how much you're drinking. Moreover, these products are put in cans that contains the equivalent of 4 standard drinks. And this makes young people drink them quickly. They drink a lot. And after 2 cans, you've already reached the level of 8 standard
drinks.
drink,
Wow.
which is the level of dangerous drinking, the equivalent of 1.5 bottle of wine. So it's huge, it's immense. And for the last 6 months, we have seen more and more young people, very often minors, admitted in the emergencies of the hospital. And because they're into pre-etylic coma or into etylic coma. And so we raise the flag and say we shouldn't wait until somebody dies before we do something. But unfortunately, nothing has been done.
This must be terrifying to parents.
It is terrifying because it's a built-in danger. Health Canada's website tells you should not mix alcohol with energy drink. It's dangerous. And at the same time, the same government allow producers to put on the market products that do exactly this, combine alcohol with energy drinks. So if you can't count on your own government to protect you, there's something wrong here. So what we need here is to put a hold on the sales of this product, try to see what kind of product is acceptable, how big the cans should be, how do we market them, how do we sell them, how do you promote them. And we're not prohibitionists. We're not saying alcohol should be forbidden in our society. But when we see there's a problem, and an obvious problem week after week after week, the least we could do is adopt the principle of precaution, put everything on hold, try to see how we can craft a framing, a legislation, bylaws, in order to make sure that the product are sold in the safest possible way.
That was Hubert Sassi, the Director General of Educ Alcool, and when he was referring to week after week after week, the problems, it's the kids turning up in emergency rooms in these alcoholic comas that are so dangerous.
13 spoons of sugar?
Yes, and it masks everything.
Yeah,
that's the
of course.
thing. Yeah, well, it's off the shelves.
Sugar's going to kill us before anything else.
It's off the shelves now in Quebec, but Hubert says it's a warning to everybody around the world.
But we'll see if governments do anything.
Well, we'll be watching. Well, now it's time for some of the comments you posted, and a reminder, you can leave your thoughts and read the comments of others to each story at the bottom of that story page. And starting us off today, Steve corrected this very story we just heard, my story on the so-called energy drink alleged to have contributed to the death of 14-year-old Athena Gervais. And Steve writes,
Well, the death of this young girl is terribly tragic, and that, at 14 years old, she was said to be drinking alcohol during her school lunch break is a testament to the neglect of those surrounding her. Teenage drinking and drug use is something to which more attention should be given. Please get your facts straight before publishing an article. These drinks are not legally available to anyone of any age. They are designated as an alcoholic beverage. No person under 18 years old can legally purchase these drinks anymore. They can legally purchase beer or wine, whether at a convenience or grocery store or liquor outlet. It's bad to tell falsehoods simply for the sake of sensationalism and reader attention.
Well, Steve, thank you for clarifying that point, and I've made the correction to the story. I have to say I knew nothing about this type of drink, and I certainly knew about energy drinks. I think I got confused because energy drinks, of course, are available to everyone. There's no restriction, but this new blended format, as these drinks are now known or available to those only over 18.
However, we should say that the fact that they're in convenience stores makes it very easy to access. Some kids apparently steal them. Some kids get older kids to go in and buy them.
That's always been the case. Go in and, you know,
terrible.
The younger brother, the older sister, the neighbor down the street. All right, well, now on to a response to the story of the medical marijuana activist, a man on a mission. Green Wellness writes,
Sam Mellis, I applaud you. Great to see medical marijuana having an impact in Canada just like it has in the United States. U.S. states are beginning to legalize it, and it's having a very positive impact in the community.
And of course, we'll be looking forward to the stories about what exactly it's going to do to the communities across Canada when it's legalized this coming summer. Sometime.
It's going to take more time than that, actually.
Yeah, in the fall it seems to be.
Now they've moved it back to the fall?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
And we'll see.
There's nothing official yet. Canada Day is the day that they designated. That
Well, he did say it wasn't. No,
yes,
he did say
July
before.
1st.
Yeah, he did say, well, later in July, and now.
Well, we'll be watching. And from Peter Ashcroft. Hello, Peter, in England. In response to the story on the missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls inquiry, that was this week where they asked for a 2-year extension. Peter comments?
This is a tragic background story to one aspect of Canadian lifestyle.
Well, thank you for sharing your thoughts and comments. We always appreciate hearing from you. Well, Terry, tell us about this Miracle Mile.
Wow. Okay. First of all, the reason I did the story is because Roger Bannister, who is became a great neurologist in later life.
So?
In May of 1954, ran a 4-minute mile. Okay, at 3:59.4, I think it was, or 3:59.6. It was planned. He had fellow athletes with him, and they paced him, and he did this at Oxford, his alma mater, and they broke the 4-minute barrier, which no one had ever done before in the history of the recorded world. I mean, there might be some guys that were running from bears or something in the woods that might have broken that record, but nobody ever recorded that before. Okay, so it's a big deal. It's front page news. I mean, it was a barrier. It was something. It was like Everest. All right. So 6 weeks later, a school teacher from Australia named John Landy breaks the record.
Breaks his record?
Breaks Bannister's record.
Oh, my goodness.
So you have now 2 guys, never before anybody. So that August 7th to be exact, in 1954, they were to meet for the first time in a race. To compete against each other. It wasn't the fix was not in like when Bannister broke the 4-minute mile. It was at the British Empire Games, now called the Commonwealth Games. Okay, so it was an incredible race. Landy goes out, builds a big lead. Bannister has this amazing kick and comes around, and just as they're getting to the home stretch, Landy looks over his left shoulder, looking the wrong way. Bannister went by him on the right,
like the Roadrunner.
Yeah, and Landy's heart was broken. So it was the first time, but they wound up both running under 4 minutes. It was one of those moments where you never forget where you were. I mean, if you're a certain age, I mean, you guys would not remember.
I wasn't born.
No, I know none of you was born. But so anyway.
It's one of the few things I can say I wasn't born for now.
Well, but it was extraordinary. I remember watching. I mean, it was just extraordinary because
nobody had ever done it before.
Nobody had ever done it before. And here are the 2 guys, and they face off, and Landy gave him. Bannister. We saw the determination in his stretch run that he showed to break the 4 minutes. Okay, all right. So I called up Bruce Dobigan about this. Bruce Dobigan is a terrific sports writer and author and this and
Sports historian.
Sports historian. I mean, he does a lot of things. He's got to make a living, you know. I mean, so he's yes. Okay, so I spoke with Dobigan about the race and how things have changed and what kind of an effect that incredible race might have had around the world.
Yeah. And I mean, Bannister's famous thing, of course, when he broke the 4-minute mile was the collapse as he came across, you know, the exhaustion and stuff. It wasn't as bad at the end of the race in Vancouver, but that was also part of the drama of Bannister, and why he captured people's attention was that, you know, he came across the line and he was spent. There was a drama to him. There was a flair to him. He's not one of these guys like today. They come around after the 10,000 meters and they walk across in record time. They go grab a flag and they sort of pat each other on the back and look like they've been out for a Sunday stroll. I mean, these guys, clearly there was drama to it. The visuals that you you saw of them competing with each other, the strain and everything, it was really tangible. And again, in an era, nowadays we see everything. TV's got everything. You can see track meets, you can see stuff online, whatever. In those days, the idea of actually seeing the visuals of it as well as hearing the news of it through the newspapers was also a novelty, was also a thing that drove this story and made it into a very, very famous story. And, of course, you'd like to think that it helped encourage runners in Kenya, it encouraged runners in other countries around the world who weren't necessarily white Brits to run. And, of course, the Kenyans have made the middle distance theirs, the Tanzanians, et cetera. The Africans have done that. You like to think it was an inspiration to them, that maybe there were some people there who saw that race and said, yeah, we can do that, and have now moved on to, of course, own the event.
Well, I saw that race, and I tried to do it. Here I am.
Did you get into track as a result of that?
No, I was a baseball player and tennis player in the spring. That was talking about the 1954 Miracle Mile at the British Empire Games, the mile of the century. What you have to remember about these guys is that they were amateurs. Okay? One guy was a school teacher. They were doing this. I don't know if they were getting paid under the table. I don't think so. Not like tennis players even. They were amateurs. And
they weren't training day in, day out.
Oh, they were training day in and day out, but they still had to work.
Part-time.
Yeah, part-time. And Bannister always said he became a noted neurologist, and he said he was always prouder of that than breaking the 4-minute mile. And that week that he broke the 4-minute mile, the day before he did it, he met the lady who became his wife. And he said, well, she didn't really understand exactly what I did. She thought I ran 4 miles in 1 minute.
A memorable week.
Yep, that's a good week.
And of course, he died last weekend at the age of 88.
Landy's still going in Australia.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. Is he still running?
87? Maybe.
Yeah, probably is. Eh?
Speed walking?
I don't know.
There's research for you, Terry.
Thanks, Lynn. But he appeared at the when was the last when were the last Commonwealth? Anyway, we had a picture of him carrying an Olympic torch or a Commonwealth Games torch.
That was him
a few years ago. Yeah.
Image there. Oh,
yeah.
Great.
Yeah,
those were in Toronto, right?
Was it in Toronto?
Yeah.
I don't know where. But they were both great guys. I mean, they were true sportsmen.
Does anybody know where we're at now? What's the mile at now?
Oh, it's down at 353, 343 or something like that. It's amazing.
But you know, the difference is that they didn't have specialty shoes.
Right.
The track was not worked. I mean, they were running in conditions.
And now the athletes have been training since childhood, just about.
Yeah, and they probably went for beers after training and this and that and the other. I mean, it's not like they're pumped up on nutrition. And no, it's the change is amazing, but the psychological barrier that he had to get through, Bannister, both of them. Well, but once Bannister did it, then Landy did it. Was phenomenal. It's just phenomenal.
I guess that's when all the jogging started, or the trend toward it, that people began running.
But these guys
slowly.
didn't jog, Carm. I mean,
I know running, but the whole idea of the fact, the possibility of doing this and the benefits, I don't know.
I certainly don't go very fast when
No, you do. You're out there
you
every
are a
day.
runner.
She's our
What about
athlete.
you, Marie-Claude?
I don't like it.
Run.
You do run too?
Yes, I do.
Do you
run.
like it?
I love it.
I
always
hate it.
run.
What do you do?
I hate it.
You're right.
I really like cross-country skiing, cycling, swimming, but I run because it's convenient and it's easy to do. But do you actually wrap your mind around it?
I love the feeling after. I
Oh,
ran.
yes, after.
But you're right. We all say I love running, but actually it's painful while we run.
And
If
how
you
long
really
do you?
think about it?
What do you guys do? How long do you go?
Oh, I never go more than 5 or 6.
Miles?
Miles or hours?
No, kilometers.
Oh, okay.
So I
Wow.
usually go like 35 minutes or 45. But I've done that all my life, ever since I'm a
Really?
early teenager.
And the challenge is doing it in the winter in Canada.
But I like it better because
You don't get too hot, that's for
it.
sure.
The heat is the worst enemy of the runner, I find.
Yeah.
To me, it slows me down a lot.
Yeah,
so.
but also snow can be unpleasant, or
Yes, yes.
ice. And while I have spikes on my boots, so to keep me from falling, I don't have them on my shoes. That is something I
Yeah.
should consider.
Yeah,
It's not fun to run with
Mireille, my
spikes.
wife has those. Yeah.
I can see, I see a lot more people jogging now through the winter than I'd ever noticed before, but certainly there are days you should not do it, those icy days. But the rest of the time, once the sidewalks are somewhat clear, yeah, why not?
Well, here's a question for you. Have you ever seen happy jogger?
Here's two.
Look at them.
Not
They're
particularly.
glowing.
No, when they're
Well,
jogging.
it's fun to
We
run in
smile
groups.
when
I used to be in a running group. That was fun.
Yeah,
Yeah.
there are right across Canada different groups that get together and run like on a Sunday morning, and that can be very pleasant when you have companions to run with.
I think sometime maybe I'll get this, but I just don't. I like walking. I very much like
and
walking.
walking is great.
Yeah.
You do not have to feel bad about
Every
walking.
now and then I do, run 50, walk 50, just
That's good for
up
you.
it a
It's
bit.
true.
But
I ran a marathon once.
did you really?
No.
Yeah, 1984.
Really?
Yeah,
Well,
I did it.
you're a runner.
Good man.
I was.
See how Mr. inspired him? Okay, let's just talk briefly about our blogs to remember this week.
Oh,
Lynn,
yes,
what
I
hit
did
you?
one. Police in the province of Ontario are once again warning about distracted driving.
Oh, this
Now,
is so terrifying.
Yeah, we're talking about texting, talking on mobile phones, and apparently this now accounts for more highway deaths than alcohol
Yes.
or speeding. The number of deaths related to inattention in the province of Ontario increased for the fifth consecutive year to 83 in 2017, and that's deaths. There were 8,711 related accidents, but I think that's in the number of years that since they've actually, I think it's about 6 years since they've actually changed the laws to make it an offense. So it's an offense under the Highway Safety Act in Ontario. And of course, if you cause somebody else's death, you can be charged with the criminal negligence under the Criminal Code of Canada, and then you're really in trouble. So,
Well, I hope they continue to bring down severe penalties on this.
and that's the province of Ontario, but you can be sure that this is a problem that's looked at in many other provinces. Certainly many police departments, or provincial governments which are responsible for road safety, have campaigns, and they also have increased penalties.
Terry, what stayed with you this week?
Well, the stay with me this week was Madame Desmond in Nova
Yes.
Scotia getting put on the $10 bill.
Can I just say that last night as I was getting into bed, it dawned on me, oh, yes, it was International Women's Day. I didn't put the two things together.
But
It's
we
like-
don't, because I talked about that at dinner last night with my wife. She said you didn't have to. It's not part of National Women. This lady stood up in 1946 in a cinema or a movie theater, as we called them in those days, just outside of Halifax, and refused to move out of the whites only section. She was fined. She was humiliated. Unlike
Jailed overnight.
Yeah, unlike Rosa Parks, who became an icon.
And 10 years before Rosa
9 years
Parks,
before
not
Rosa Parks.
in
That's
the
right.
United States.
Right. But anyway, it was so good to see the people because they unveiled the bill on yesterday or on Thursday, and to see the
International
Nova
Women's Day.
Scotia Black community gathered around to honor this lady, along with the big shots from Ottawa. It was really
Yeah, her
heartening.
sister's still alive.
Yeah, she's great, eh?
And she made the front page,
Yep.
her sister, with the actual dollar bill. So
Now, how long do we have to wait till we see them?
They're out.
no, they're not out yet. They're only going to be in general circulation later this year, I think.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
my God.
we'll be watching.
We can argue about that later.
No, I'm not. Give me that 10 in your wallet.
He's
Very
smart. He
close.
never argues with women.
No. Oh, I learned a long time ago.
Anything that struck you, Mary Claude, this week?
Well, this week, actually, I was very busy with Mark because we
On
was
assignment, yes.
That's it. So I nothing really other than that. It struck me. I'm sorry.
You had tunnel vision.
Yeah,
He's preparing an item on seeing eye dogs, or service dogs.
And last week we worked together on your item.
yeah, which was also very interesting. Coming
Yeah.
soon.
What is yours
Yeah.
on? Oh, I
Well,
know
it's a
your
long
story.
story.
Yes,
How
okay.
about
And what's Mark Montgomery really like?
he's a nice guy.
Must have been great to be meeting all those dogs.
Oh, yeah.
In all
We
those
had a great
different
time.
Oh, I
situations.
love dogs. Aren't they the highest
and
creatures on the face of
they
the
have
earth?
puppies too, little puppies that are going to grow up to be service dogs, right?
Oh,
Mary Claude?
they're
I'm
so
surprised
wonderful.
you didn't bring one home or try to kidnap
I'm
one.
thinking about it because
Really?
now I want to adopt one. You can be a foster family
that's
for a
right.
year.
Dog, yeah.
That's right.
Yeah,
And
before they start training, they have to be
I've really been
fostered for a
thinking
year.
about it because they're so cute and I love dogs, but then it's only for a year, so it's a trial thing. So.
Well, on that happy note, we'll end our program today. If you'd like to hear any of these interviews in their complete version, you can just log on to our website there at www.rcinet.ca. RCINET, that's the part that often gets forgotten. And until next week, I'm Carmel Kilkenny, here with Lynn,
Bye.
Cherry, And Marie-Claude Simon.
Which camera?
This is
Where do we look
We
like?
start there, we end there.
You were always good on camera.
Chantal Saint-Sauveur, merci. Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye.